right, y'all, I am here and I'm going to walk you through an example of how to factor by splitting the middle term. So this is not a factoring question to where we can just look at this last number and say what factors of 3 would add to be 4, and it may look like it'll work, but the problem with this problem is that there's a 4 coefficient on your x squared, so we got to do something different. All right, so how we start this process is we're going to multiply our coefficient on x squared by the constant, or that number that's at the end. And when we multiply that, we get negative 12. What we want to do is think about what are some numbers that multiply to be negative 12 that would add to be negative 4. So our choices are 1 and 12, 3 and 4, or 2 and 6. Those are the only things that would multiply to give you negative 12. So in order to get a negative 4 when we add those factors, also the only one that's going to work would be this pair of 2 and 6. How would we get a negative 4 adding 2 and 6? Well, if we had a negative 6 plus 2, that would be a negative 4. Or you could think about it as 2 minus 6. Either one. Either way will work. All right, let's just choose the first one just because it's the negative number first. So what we do then is we split the middle term, which is the negative 4x. We split it up using those two factors that we just found. So negative 4x is really the same as negative 6x plus 2x. So, if you can combine those back together, you would see that you have that negative 4x. It's still the same thing. All right, so bring down your last term and bring down your first term. Those don't change. Okay, from here, what we're going to do is a little greatest common factor, or factor by grouping is what it's called. So we split this problem in half, and we're going to think about what is the greatest common factor between the coefficients 4 and 6. The biggest number that divides into both of those is 2. So we're going to factor out a 2. And then since this term has an x squared and this one has an x, we're going to factor out an x because they both have at least one of them. All right, so if that's our greatest common factor, we're going to divide both of these terms by the greatest common factor to figure out what is left. We're just undoing the distributive property here. So 4 divided by 2 would be 2, and x squared divided by x would be x. Then bring down your minus, and 6 divided by 2 would be 3, and those x's would cancel, so that would leave us with 2x minus 3 on the inside. All right, then whatever sign is on our next term is the sign that we must use here for our greatest common factor, and since it's a positive, we'll bring down a plus. Now, what's the highest number, or the greatest common factor, between 2 and 3? Well, the only number that divides both of those is 1. So our greatest common factor is 1 here on this part. We're going to divide that out of both of these terms and see what is left. So when we do that, we do the same kind of thing we did over here. 2 divided by 1 is 2, and this term still has the x. And then negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. So what's going to happen every time you split the middle term is that what you have in parentheses is going to be the same on both halves of your problem. So that thing that is the same, the thing they both have that's in common, is one of your factors, the 2x minus 3. And then the other factor is going to come from the greatest common factors that you pulled out. I call those the leftovers. And those paired together make the other factor. So these two binomials multiplied together would give you that trinomial we started with.